2 or 3. There's like 3 death threats. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. 3 in a day. That's like, either I'm doing really good or I'm like really screwing myself.
A good host, you know what I mean? Do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. I'm Justin Pearson.
Thanks for coming over.
Yeah, thanks.
I was just reading your book, trying to do some research. At one point, maybe this is too inside baseball right off the start, but you're talking about other people you're in a band with and how maybe they just came into a little money, and you're talking about your stuff, and you're like, I'm paraphrasing, but kind of like, fuck, that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, the stuff you've done is so gnarly and out there.
That's why it hasn't happened.
Well, or there's kind of a smaller audience.
But it's weird because it's art and it's subjective, and you look at like, I don't know, like some of those bands like Fall in Reverse, and I mean, obviously a lot of people like them, but like I think it's complete garbage, and so it's just speculatory, because like what's good and what's bad, and why are some things popular and some things not? It's because a lot of it's digestible, especially with like things like certain kinds of pop music or EDM or something where there's like a structure, there's like a science behind it that you can use to market because it is appealing to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And for one, like I never really like, I mean, I understand it a little bit, but I also don't want to understand it. I want to be like, fuck, I don't care about that stuff. Like I'd rather do something that feels natural than like, it has to be like 16 measures and it has to have this drop and the thing. And
yeah, do you think, I've been thinking about this a lot because I started this project and it's so fucking weird. I started with just a couple of my best friends, whatever, just talking, no context. And that was my idea. Like you don't need an introduction. You listen and that's cool. It's like overhearing a conversation or whatever. Then I realized, well, that's kind of fucking out there and a tiny audience. Maybe that's not why people do things. Are the things that get the big audience, you think those people, they're like courting the big audience?
It's a good question.
You know what I mean?
I do, but I think like what's more important is like for me, okay, I can just, what I find more important or like why I do what I do. Like it's one thing if you like go and do something because you want a big audience, or if you go and do something because you're like, I have to do this, or like I feel like I should do this. Those are two totally separate things. There might be overlap, and that's cool. Like if you're very sincere, if you're Bruce Springsteen, that's cool or whatever. But like, I mean,
like if the stuff you like happens to be the stuff that a ton of other people like,
then you won the lottery.
It's like you can be genuine and liked a lot. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that I trip out on, even like Lady Gaga, I mean, I think that like the music's pretty boring, but like she still has like fascinating elements that are not even musical necessarily, more an artistic side of things that aren't specific to music. So then I start tripping out on that, like how come that's acceptable? I mean, and even growing up like in the 80s, like I always kind of reference things like, why was Boy George super popular? And like, why wasn't that an issue? Like I grew up thinking like, I have no idea if that's a man or a woman, and it doesn't really matter. Like it wasn't even an issue for me. It was just like, that's cool. Culture Club's rad. And like, that was the kind of the bottom line.
Yeah, that is so weird because you could also imagine that in a little punk club or something.
Totally.
And if you saw it, you'd be like, no, nobody would ever.
But that's where like that idea, I'm assuming,
yeah.
I don't know, Boy George personally, but like, I'm assuming that came from punk,
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. It's probably not that healthy to fixate on it, but
I mean, sure, I would love to like not have to hustle and not be broke and, not like in the back of my mind thinking like, oh crap, how am I going to pay my bill? Or I can't go to the doctor. Yeah, I would love to not have those thoughts, but like, it's weird. I went out to, so, okay. I mean, I live like below the poverty level and I've kind of like fine tuned it over the years to just go like, all right, I'm going to do whatever I want. And like, get by, and like I don't really have like stability and I don't have like something to fall back on. But one of my main like vices, like I never really got into drugs because I could never afford it, when I was younger and stuff. And now I realize it's not a good idea. But I got like into like food, sort of like I eat like I try to eat organic and vegan, and I eat like expensive food, you know, and like that's kind of like what I spend most of my money on, even on tour. And it's like, that's cool. Like my bandmates will smoke or drink or something, and I'll be like, I'm gonna go get this like, you know, kombucha and like kale salad. So anyhow, I was in this restaurant last week in Los Angeles. I had to go up there for some stuff with one of my bands, and I was at this restaurant, and the waiter had like a Discord shirt on, and you know, I kind of like connected with him a little bit, like subliminally, I think, you know, like, oh, we're the like weirdo punkers or whatever. And then there's this guy next to me with his girlfriend, and they're sitting there, and they had this weird dialogue, and they knew each other, and that's cool, whatever. But the customer that was there had like this weird demeanor, and it was like kind of bumming me out. Like I thought he was kind of tripping out on the waiter, but they knew each other, and it was strange. So like I was like already kind of like sizing him up a little bit, like what a dick, you know. And then he like caught me like kind of eyeing their food, because I was like, what are they eating? And he tells me, and he's like, this is the best thing on the menu, and like he had like a good. He was cool or whatever, you know. And so then he goes, "Are you a musician or an agent?" And I was like, "What are you, like, secret agent?" You know, I didn't know what he meant. I was like, "Agent." And I'm like, "I don't know. I play music." And he's like, "Well, good for you." And I was like, "That's funny. That's like a weird like thing to say, like good for you," you know. And I was like, "Yeah, I guess," you know,
condescending, like, kind of.
But it wasn't wasn't. And so, but at first, I was kind of like, "Oh, that's like the first." You know, glance at his comment, I was thinking like, what a dick, you know, or like, yeah, you know, condescending, or like, like that's like a weird arbitrary thing to say. But then I was thinking like, okay, well, I was like, you know, I struggle and I hustle, and he's like, well, that's what I mean, like, good for you, like you're sticking it out, like, you know, most people would just be like, fuck it and bail. And he's like, and so I was like, and he's like, no, it's like that's really honorable. And I was like, that's a weird way to look at it. I was like, what do you do? And he's like, I'm in medicine. I think he was like herbologist or something, like kind of like, you know, like healthy, not like a doctor, but he was like into medicine or whatever. So
real LA shit.
Well, I mean, that stuff's cool too. I'm really a fan of like a lot of Eastern medicines and stuff. I think it's a lot better than the pharmaceutical companies. So anyhow, I was tripping out on that, and I was like, like good for me. And like trying to like contemplate it, you know, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, like, fuck yeah, good for me. Because like I did stick this shit out, and like, I don't know, I just trip out. So I don't want to like, because I do have like, you know, ex-bandmates who are like, oh, they won the lottery, like they're a millionaire now, like that's kind of weird, like, you know, like good for them. Yeah, I don't wish any ill will on anyone, you know, but I'm like, fuck, you know, and then I kind of like I'm like, dude, if I could ever like come up on money like that, like I'm gonna hook up, like we're all going to like, it's gonna be rad for all of us, you know, like it's not just be like I got the money, like fuck you, you know. I'm gonna be like, even today at the dog park, this woman was like just throwing out like all these toys, like had this huge bag, and I was like, that's so rad, you know. And my girlfriend and I were like, we should do that when we win the lottery. It's always when you win the lottery, but like I was like, yeah, but I wouldn't want to just have a bag, like I don't want to show up with like 1,000 toys, you know, for dogs. But then I was thinking we really should go to the Humane Society and just like donate to them, you know.
Yeah,
everyone at the dog park, all those dogs are already psyched, you know.
Yeah, it's so, I wasn't gonna adopt anything, then you go there and it's like, it's so brutal. I mean, yeah, it's great. I mean, it's not that it's brutal, but like it's great what those animals can do. And yeah, I knew we were going to come to animals sooner or later, and it happened really fast. No, it's funny. I've lived here a couple years, and I moved here without any plannings. I'd never been here before. It was, in hindsight, really dumb. I didn't know anybody.
From where?
The Virginia, DC area. Yeah. I lived my whole life from DC to Richmond.
Do you know Jason Hamaker?
No.
Oh, he's the best.
Okay.
You got to do some research on that guy.
Okay.
We were talking about NPR and stuff.
Yeah.
Earlier. He was on NPR for the stuff he did in Syria. It's fascinating.
Huh.
Yeah, Jason Hamaker, he was the drummer for Refused, and he's in this band called Regents.
Okay.
Anyhow, okay, go on with what you're saying.
Anyway, I moved here, and it was one of those things where, like, you're high on the decision, like, holy shit, I'm going to do this. I'm going across the country. Yeah, fuck yeah. And, you know, a week later, it comes crashing down. You're like, what the fuck did I do? I spent every cent I had to come out here.
Yeah.
This was a horrible decision. I don't know. You don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And California is different. It's not even really obvious where, like, the spots are. People aren't outside, you know? I just found myself driving. Like, where do I go? Anyway, it had to be the first week or 2 weeks I was here. I saw you walking your little dog. And I'm like, I guess I knew in the back of my head you lived here, but I didn't think about it. And I'm like, oh, okay, San Diego. It must not be that. Like, if Justin Pearson lives here, like this, I don't know, if some rad people live here. Like, it's not.
There are some rad people that live here, and I'm grateful for it. I would never have chose to. My mom moved me here when I was younger, and I was totally against it, you know. And I live in Phoenix, and it's like, in retrospect, it's like, what the fuck was I wanting to stay there for, you know?
Do you remember the first time you ever saw San Diego?
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember driving on the 163 freeway, and I was thinking like, whoa, it's like a jungle, you know, because I lived in Arizona. Everything's just desert and flat. And I'm like, this is wild. You know, it's like right when you pass through Balboa Park.
Yeah.
And I was just tripping out on that. And I remember like I remember so much crap. I remember like Balboa Park, and I was like, whoa, it's like Rocky Balboa, you know, and I was like a little kid. So anyhow.
Why have you stayed here?
It's pretty rad. There was a point where the Locust was like, we're going to move like as a band, and we went on this like 4-month tour everywhere, and we were like, oh, this place is cool and that place is cool. And then we got back to Southern California, and we're like, actually, it's pretty rad here. Let's just stay. So, I mean, there was a lot of places. I mean, like, you know, we were like, Chicago is cool, and like I was born in Chicago. I think it's really an awesome place, but I think the weather sucks all the time.
Yeah.
You know, but there was so much rad stuff that happened there. And then, you know, we were kind of like, Berlin. I'm like, how the hell are we going to move to Europe, you know, or to Germany? That's kind of crazy. And then we got back to California. We're like, no, let's just stay here. Southern California is cool, I think. I mean, and especially for me, San Diego, I mean, they're, you know, like how you said, like, oh, seeing people that you know, you're aware of and stuff. Like, I mean, a couple of days ago, I was getting coffee, and I was like, oh, there's, you know, Rick and John from Hot Snakes, you know, and they were recording their album. So I was like, they're like my homies and stuff. But I was like, there's so many rad people here that I feel like we can all kind of like get that energy from, you know? And I'm grateful for that too. I think if I would have grown up maybe if I would have grown up in Chicago, like it would have been rad, you know, like a lot of that weird no wave stuff that was happening there would have been cool or like the Fireside Bowl and stuff, like the whole scene that was going on would have been cool to kind of like grab onto that. But I feel like, you know, growing up in Arizona, like good luck, you know, like.
Yeah. I grew up in Northern Virginia. I mean, not Arizona, but a ton of military, a ton of, you know, just deep suburb. So
yeah,
I can imagine.
Yeah. But so I think San Diego's great.
It's just, you don't see people staying in one place for that long.
If you're here long enough, you see the one stay, you know.
That's a good point.
A lot of people have gone, but like I still like, there's people that I hang out with that I've known for 20, 30 years.
Like you're so embedded here.
Sure. And even like, I don't know, it's a weird thing because I think maybe you can relate. Like if you get to travel a lot, you kind of have a different perspective of things, you know, because I do, especially like with music, it's like, you know, we were talking about Joan of Arc, like they came to the Che, and it was like, it's like really, really good to see those people, you know, and then it's like hanging out, you know, even though it's not like, they don't live in the same city as me, but like I get to see them like twice a year, which I don't even see certain people that I know, you know, twice a year that live here.
It doesn't feel like that many people come down here.
It's in the corner.
Yeah, that's what I guess I was getting at. Even just Los Angeles gets so... Then you see everybody. But down here, it feels really like a little bit like an island. Like,
but the thing is, when it does come here, when things happen here, it seems a little bit more special and more intimate. Yeah. In LA, you'll get lost in it, you know, and it's oversaturation. And here it's like, maybe not like special or maybe not important, but maybe more special than something else. Like it was cool, like, the other night to see those guys, or like, you know, tonight, like I'm gonna go see. I'm not the biggest fan of Suicidal Tendencies, but my friend Dave's playing drums for them, and I'm really excited to go. You know, it's like I would rather see them here than at like the Palladium, you know, or something.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like I've only lived here a couple of years. I don't know that many people, but you go around and you're like, even people you don't know, they're just familiar faces already.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a lot like I live in Richmond, Virginia. Like it's a lot more like that versus a big city.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was I didn't know anything about San Diego before I came here, and I'm reading your interviews and stuff before I'm going to talk to you. And there's this great zine from, I don't know, it's fucking 15 years old. Somebody made like a Tumblr of it though, and they had interviewed you at a Locust show in the 90s. Before the interview part, the person was writing. and they were like, I went to the show. It was kind of this dramatic, some of those scenes are really dramatic. They're like, I went to the show, and there's a ton of those San Diego kids, and you know how they are, ...
Yeah.
And I found myself thinking, I don't even know what the person is even referencing.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of do. But
what was going on? It seems like whatever was happening then, I mean, I don't... It's all coffee shops and $300 sneakers.
It's different.
There.
I think 15 years ago, things were much different. I mean, also, too, before you had the internet, there was this kind of mysticism about a lot of stuff. So, I'm assuming, I don't know which interview you're talking about, but there is this like sort of like image of San Diego once you leave it that a lot of people had and still sort of have, that kind of revolved around like Gravity Records and like, like bands like Antioch Arrow and stuff, and was like everyone like looks cool and like has a really shitty attitude and like isn't into politics or whatever but it was like not really. I mean, maybe everybody like looked cool, because I feel like it was like sort of this sort of like kind of like how maybe Nation Ulysses was in DC or something, where it was like very political and everyone was really cool and it was about community. Because for us here, that's what it was. It was, and it was like a weird thing too, because when people would say like have this like sort of negative context, it's like, well, what about like, there was like a lot of activism happening here and people did have the right mindset. I mean, it's a very conservative city. So I feel like for the most part, if you are identifying with art, you kind of fall on the sort of like liberal side of the spectrum, in that sense that like there is this like institutional racism and there is this like sense of oppression, even with like police brutality, and like it's pretty prevalent in San Diego. And so I think that like that is something that a lot of people, like, we didn't have to be like, I fucking hate the cops and let's burn the flag. It's just kind of like we were just living our lives and we were reacting in a communal sense, because we had the Che Cafe and we had like these sort of like parameters that we all evolved in.
Sure. Yeah. It was just funny. I guess it seemed like a lot was like put onto those people that maybe wasn't real or whatever.
Yeah. Well, also too, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff that happens everywhere, but there was like, for that time, it was like, you would look at San Diego and you'd be like, you have Drive Like Jehu and you have Antioch Arrow and you have Katawi and, a lot of these bands, Unbroken, like they were all just like badass, like you're like, dude, you got all these badass bands. Like, and then, so maybe there was this sort of like outsider looking in being like, oh, like they're all good and like, fuck them, like, like had this like kind of, and I mean, I just remember tripping out, like going to this show in LA, and it was Unbroken and Undertow were on tour with Click Attack, Katawi, and Slant Six, and everybody was like, this is so weird and this is crazy. I mean, like, but that kind of mix like is really what San Diego is about. Like, it's just like we don't really have the ability to be like, we're this kind of scene and we're gonna be like elitist. It was like whatever you want to do, you did it, and it didn't matter. Especially
back then, it felt like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it still happens, but it also, people are a bit lazier, and I don't think it is like as special as it used to be. People just would go home and watch it on YouTube or something.
What happened to that scene here?
It still exists.
It's still, I
mean, I don't know. There was a show on Monday, Retox and Death Eyes.
Old or fucking out of it completely.
Well, I don't know, like if it's an age thing either. I think it's just like, I mean, it's just different because social media is so fast paced now, and everything happens, and there's like, I don't know, maybe it makes people like apathetic to some sense, but like it felt like rad and it felt real and it was cool. Like we did this benefit. Well, we just did a show and part of the proceeds went to Planned Parenthood, and it had like this sort of positive vibe to it. And it wasn't like overtly political, but it was political, you know, and it was very social. But it was cool because whatever anybody wanted to do, they could do it. It wasn't like, there wasn't like those parameters that I think a lot of music scenes tend to kind of vibe with.
What are the differences now, you think, because you're not only a band person, you're a label person, you're like, there's a scene orbiting around you, or you're part,
I'm maybe in an orbit with everything else. But like, again,
doesn't it feel really different now?
Totally does.
With phones and stuff than it did?
Well, yeah, because before when you got the new weird, rare, obscure Man is the Bastard 7-inch. It was special. And you're like, this is fucking crazy and weird. And you would stare at it and you would listen to it and you would like, connect with this piece of vinyl.
Yeah.
And now it's like, there's an MP3 and who cares? And like, I'm not even going to leave my house and like, fuck you world. And, I'm going to just complain about Trump on Facebook. And then that's your night, And it's like, well, what about going out and like having like a real human interaction and like having real, honest energy being shared amongst different human beings? Like that's kind of more inspiring than anything else.
Yeah. Like I remember getting the Locust record. And I was in Northern Virginia. The raddest band was called Mass Movement of the Moth. They had synths, blast beats. They were awesome. They were in college when I was in high school. Super nice people. They let my band open for them. Somebody at a show was like, oh, if you like them, you're going to love this. Mm-hmm. They gave me like a burned Memorex of the Locust. And it's from, I don't really know the guy that gave it to me. I can remember his face.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, if this older college guy is given to me, like this
must be it.
It meant something, and it was just mysterious and just a blank white CD. And I don't know what it would be like now to be
because there's
15,
like
and if I would have found it, if I would have liked it.
Because you could just go like Google everything, and you got it,
And it had like a friendly face to it instead of like a Facebook profile that's like selling it to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I remember like being, 15 years old or something, or 16, and like seeing Born Against and like hearing about it and then seeing it in person. I was like, oh my God, this is so insane, and I couldn't quit thinking about it. Or Downcast. I mean, they were just a few hours away, but like seeing Downcast play when I was 15 years old has affected the rest of my life. It changed everything. The way I thought obviously I was really young and I didn't have a lot going on in my mind yet, but it pushed me in a direction, just seeing that. And I feel like a lot of people would miss out on that now because it's different. If you go, you can watch like a rad old, like I'm going to watch like an old show of Infest at the Che Cafe on YouTube. I went and saw Infest play at the Che like a few years ago and it was kind of a bummer, but I wanted that same experience. I had a reference point,
Yeah. I guess it's always that thing when like technology moves so quickly and you get dated so quickly. I always look back and it feels better and more comfortable, and you're always, resistant to whatever's going on now.
Maybe, but I also think that, well, for me personally, I think like, I've evolved. I don't want to play those kind of shows or be in those kind of bands. I think like, I think about like some of the shows that the Locust played, or maybe like the Crimson Curse or something, and I think like, well, man, I don't know what we were thinking, like we didn't really sound that great, and it's like, I don't want to do that again. So we have changed along with technology and the world and the planet, and it should evolve. It shouldn't be like, let's go back to like the nostalgia and play like this crummy thing.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. But
how do you get that special thing to happen again?
Yeah.
Like a good reference point for me in like San Diego is Crash Worship. They have, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but it's like this sort of weird cult band thing that happened. And it was like, I mean, I hate to use terms to try to explain it. I mean, it was musical, but it was also very theatrical, and it was very frightening and like just sexual and like just fucked up. And like this, predates like rave culture. Okay. So it was kind of like people would just get fucked up, and there's like blood and like fake or real pig's blood, or like, I don't know, people were like naked and like shooting off fireworks, and like there was like a bunch of drummers, and it was just like this fucked up thing. What was my point?
How things used to be.
Yeah, like that'll never happen again. You never can have that kind of like absurdity and like intensity. I mean, it can happen, but it'll happen to an extent, but it's only going to happen to like 50 people instead of 250 people, because the other 200 are just going to be like, I don't care. I don't go out and experience that shit anymore.
Yeah, that I think is the biggest thing. Like, I watch music on YouTube all fucking day. Even crazy, obscure 90s stuff. A lot of the comments are, I'm 15, but this is my favorite shit. Uh-huh. And I think young people will continue to be into radical shit, but just like you said, they're not going to experience it in person. It's going to be recorded. They see it from the safe distance of their living room. And that, when you're 15 and you're seeing this crazy adult radical shit, it's like that. I don't know. That's what affected and stuck with me almost more than the music. And you don't get that through YouTube.
Sure. This is really shitty of me to do this. When I was 15, I remember I really was blown away by that band Downcast, and they were coming to the Che Cafe, and I had chicken pox, and I was like, I'm gonna fucking go to this show.
Especially at 15, you don't think about anybody else. You're like,
I mean, I did. I thought like, oh crap, I know, you know what? I probably gave a lot of people chicken pox, but I definitely gave the singer of Struggle, who was like my best friend, fucking chicken pox. And I was like, oh well, dude. Like, I mean, I had to go. Like, you can't tell me like you're pissed at me. Besides, you got them, and now you got it out of your system. But like, I remember going and just like losing my mind. Like, oh my god, this is so fucking sick. Yeah, everyone's getting chicken pox. Oops. Yeah. But I couldn't, like, normal people now, or me now, I'd be like, oh my God, I have chicken pox. I'm staying home. I was like, there's no way I'm staying on this couch.
Yeah.
Or in my bed. I'm going out to this fucking show.
Yeah. I hate being one of those, like, I don't think things were all better back then. Like, I think there's great things about YouTube. I mean, the amount of things I've watched and listened to before YouTube, I could never ever learn about all that.
Yeah, but you would just go on like Maxim Rock and Roll and like trade VHS tapes. That's what I would always do.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I love the piano player Bill Evans, and on YouTube has like every fucking show that he ever played all through Europe right before he died, like in '80.
So there's someone responsible, like, or is it a label or like someone like?
No, I think they're just crazy fans. Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, because I would trip out and be like, I need Samhain or like, you know, Septic Death, and I'd like try to get like these videos. And you would think like, okay, that makes sense, like weird punks that are like obsessing. But then you think about like jazz or classical music, or even like, I mean, I guess like rock. There was always like, I was kind of like stoked to get like weird like Black Sabbath footage. You're like, whoa, this is fucking trippy, you know? And someone put it there on a VHS tape, and I was able to buy it for like $4, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, so that is all great, and you can learn so much. And now that 15-year-old has access to everything. So, I mean, that's cool. But yeah, the person-to-person, the antisocial, I learned how to be in a group by going to shows and stuff, and that, I guess, is just different now.
But another thing, too, that I think maybe with the reason why it might not be as special is that, so I think like people might be a little bit apathetic to go experience it. They're like, I don't want to go out. But also like the people creating the art are kind of like, I'm just going to send this file to like, you know, I'll get like emails and people will send me a link to their Bandcamp, and it'll be like, to whom it may concern. I'm like, fuck this person. I mean, no offense. I mean, I'm sorry if someone's listening to that. Like, that sucks for me to say that. But I think, like, where's the sincerity in that? To whom it may concern. Like, when I sent Struggle, you know, my first band's, like, demo to labels, I sent it to the labels that I wanted to be on. And I knew who were on them, who was on them. I knew everything, you know? And I feel like, and then I got a response, and it was so cool. Yeah. And now it's just, like, I mean, I don't want to say like delete, you know, but I think like, dude, I mean, I'll listen to it, and then I'll just, I will only write back people that I feel that it's like special, you know? Yeah. And the thing is like, that's kind of weird is like, I would always just try to think like, how can I pull this off, you know? And like, I hate referencing this. It's annoying that it gets brought up way too much, but it was, in retrospect, I was like, fuck, I really pulled a number and did this. But like, you know, my whole, like, I was like, how can I promote my band? Like, I'm going to go on Jerry Springer. Like, I mean, it's like a silly thing to talk about, but like at the time it was like, how can I, well, it wasn't like that I was like, I'm going to promote my band. It wasn't like, cause you weren't obsessed over like how many likes or followers I have. You were just like, what can I do to fuck with people? And like, maybe it'll help something. I don't even know what I thought, you know? But now I don't think that people, for one, I don't think people would think like, what can I do that's totally jacked up that it like shouldn't really be like, you know, the route that I would take to be a successful something, you know?
Yeah.
But I also think that like that doesn't exist.
You know, I have a bunch of thoughts. So for one, I totally hear you on the mass email bullshit. I mean, you get out what you put into it for sure. But on the other hand, I do think I get this. Like I work on a lot of stuff, but I mean, there's this fear of publicizing it or putting yourself out there that I think, I mean, not everybody has the fucking balls to go on a TV show and possibly look like a fool. And, you know, like that's...
But I don't know if it's like balls. I think it's like for one, maybe it's guts, you know, because you just kind of have to be like, I don't know. But not even like that. It's
the confidence. I don't know. I think I look up to you for that.
But I think it's like a lot of people that do that kind of stuff. I mean, even before that, you know, like I remember seeing, like, again, like Sam McFeeters, you know, like crank calling Donahue, and it's like you don't have like nothing to lose.
Well, it's one of those things like your head knows it, but your heart doesn't. You know what I mean?
Or your heart does, because your heart's like, I'm so sincere about what I'm doing musically or creatively or artistically. Like, I don't care. I mean, that's the thing is, like, I didn't care what anybody thought, you know, aside from like, I knew like, okay, I got my shit together. I'm not a jerk, really, you know, a big jerk. So I'm going to just go do this thing and see what happens. Because I feel like people are too concerned about the outcome.
I talk about this nonstop because it's one of my biggest hangups. I don't know how to get over it. I mean, a ton of people. I think also it's getting worse because, or I don't know, you deal with so much like shame online and shit. You don't want to make a fool of yourself.
That's just a bummer. I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it really can stop you from, you know, not only can it stop you from marketing your creative stuff, it can stop you from doing it in the first place.
Sure. It's so crazy. Even like trolls and shit, you know, when I say something political and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? People standing up for like the Grand Wizard of the KKK arguing with me. I'm like, dude, you just wasted an hour, 2 hours of my day debating with some piece of shit. You know, it's crazy. And then, but then I think like, you got to look at it like this, like in another perspective. It's like, okay, so this is a recent thing. Like there was this Grand Wizard of the KKK that was murdered, I guess, by his wife and stepchild or stepson or something. It was interesting. And I posted this article and I'm like, fucking good riddance. You know, like, you know, I think I wrote like, change comes one funeral at a time. And this is the Grand Wizard of the KKK. Like, fuck yeah. Like it's good that I'm stoked that he's dead. Like, I think it's a good thing for the planet, you know? People were saying like, you're a fucking asshole, you know, like perpetuating hate. And like, I'm like, wait, are you kidding me? Like you're going to, and so it's like, and they're all white people and they're like lecturing me how like, well, you know, it's one thing to be against them, but you are like, you know, inciting hate. And I'm like, I didn't say like, I'm stoked he died a maybe violent death. You know, I'm like, I don't know how he died. I'm just glad he's not here. Like he's a fucking Grand Wizard of the KKK.
Like he was a negative on the planet.
I mean, if someone doesn't agree with me, well, fuck it. I don't give a shit. But there were people like arguing and I'm like, dude, I'm not like, I try to be peaceful. I fucking go to yoga. I meditate. Like I'm not going to go start a fight, but I'm fucking stoked that the Grand Wizard of the KKK died. Like, suck it, motherfuckers, you know? Yeah. And like, I'm like, okay, there goes like a few hours. And like, then it came down to the point where this guy was like, I'm going to fucking shoot you. I'm going to kill you. And I'm like, all right. And then in my mind, I'm like, oh God.
Like on Twitter or something, that person's probably like 11.
Yeah. Well, it was on Facebook. And but then like, there's all these other people like that I don't really know that are kind of like, you know, agreeing with me. They're like, then they start like talking shit about the way he looks and his wife. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be bad. He's going to kill me, you guys. Like when you start saying shit about how fucked up his wife looks, like I wouldn't do that. I mean, I saw, she looked fucked up, but I'm not going to like say that, you know, sure. Like I'm not going to, I'm just like, dude. And anything I just kept correcting. He was very grammatically incorrect. And I kept saying like, you're spelling this wrong or you're saying this wrong. And it just he couldn't like, I'm going to fucking shoot you. I'm a Navy SEAL and all that. And I'm thinking like, holy crap, am I going to die? Because it is a trip, because then I think like I'm going to go on tour and I'm sure this is burning some hole in his brain.
This is a list of where you're going to be every moment.
I mean, he's like somehow stumbled upon my Facebook page. Oh, you're on tour. Oh, you're coming to my city. I'm going to fucking go shoot him. But I don't really think that'll happen. If it does, oh well, I mean, I'll learn my lesson. I guess I'll be dead, you know, or whatever. But I kept thinking like, God, this is crazy. But then I started thinking like, there's all these other people getting involved in this dialogue. Sure. And I'm like, maybe this isn't like so terrible, because I think like it caused me a lot of anxiety.
Yeah,
it's funny. You have like those teeth over there. Do you have to
mouth guard?
Yeah, I grind my teeth at night because I'm fucking stressed out. Yeah. You know, I'm like receding gums and chipping my teeth away and shit, and like because I'm stressed. And I remember just like kind of going to bed and waking up being like, fuck, I feel so tense, you know, because I was like up all night, like just
because of this event.
It was one
of the things
to read like Hey, this is one thing I posted out of like however many, but to like get like, there was like 2 or 3, there's like 3 death threats. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. 3 in a day. That's like, either I'm doing really good or I'm like really screwing myself. And so I, you know, but I just started tripping out, but a lot of people got engaged in it. And I back up what I said, you know, I'm not like, I don't wish violent death on people. I don't wish violence in the world. But I wish violence would cease to exist, which is the Ku Klux Klan, you know, like fucking, how are you going to argue that they're not a violent organization? Go for it, you know? And so then I just think like, well, it is what it is. But it's true. Like, I remember like going back to like the day when like people were first able to document shit, and like my childhood, like when it was like the Rodney King riots, it was like, that was the first big deal. Like when I was like 15 or 16 and they filmed the Rodney King incident, and it was all over. And it was like, as soon as that thing hit the news that night, people were fucking rioting in the streets in San Diego. And it was like the first time I ever really felt like that transfer, like that thing happened instantly, you know? And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Everybody all over the world knew it, but everybody I mean, it was like very instant. This is before the internet, you know, but it was like someone was able to document this thing, and then it was like
the people that control the messaging kind of couldn't completely control the message.
No. Wait, which message?
Meaning, there was a time when, if you watched the news, the only images you saw were taken by a professional photographer. And that was the first time when they couldn't completely...
Or someone, whoever first aired that was like, whoa, we can cash in on this.
Well, that was what they were thinking. But the original footage or whatever. Yeah. Just your whole event is like... I'm very conflict adverse, so all of that just gives me so much anxiety.
But then I think like, God, what about the people, you know, like, yeah, we're privileged to some extent, you know, but what about the people that aren't, that really do have to fight? And I fucking start thinking like, then I start getting like aggravated. I'm like, you know, and I don't want to go fight someone. I don't want to like, you know, if the guy that's threatening to shoot me because he's like, I forgot what he said, but like, I have an underground network of this and we're going to shoot you. And I'm like, you know, like, and I'm like thinking like, whatever. But if I saw the guy, I wouldn't be like, let's go, come on, let's fight. I'd be like, dude.
And he wouldn't either.
He wouldn't, but let's say he would. I
can't believe people type that just with the paranoia of NSA or whatever. Just,
well, that's another thing too. There were so many people, because I said, good riddance. You know, like I said, you know, change comes one funeral at a time. Let's bury this guy and the rest of the Ku Klux Klan. And I said, like, we might as well throw in number 45. And people were like, I'm reporting you to the NSA. Like, all these people. And I'm like, there's a long list of people saying they want to fucking kill the president. Like, and I didn't even say that. I just said throw number 45 into the grave, you know, like that's it. Like I didn't say like fucking let's kill the guy, you know. Yeah. And so people are like, that's it, NSA. You're reported. You're going down, buddy. And I'm like, and in my mind I'm thinking like, fuck, am I going down? I'm like, but I'm probably like already on a bunch of lists if that even exists. But right now, I mean, I'm just like, dude, the NSA is way in over their head. Like I'm a small change on that list. Like. You know, and especially when there's some shithead on Facebook telling, I reported you. It's like, to who? Like, you probably went to this like mass email list and good luck. There's like some poor person that has to like sift through all this garbage shit.
It's some computer program that's trying to parse out all the keywords.
Yeah. So there's that.
I forget what we were talking about, promoting stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it is all related though, because the type of person that is afraid of having an online confrontation is afraid of promoting themselves. And on the internet, everything is connected. And it's like, you know, the same place where you go to promote your record is the place where people are having death threat. Like, it's just like, fuck,
it's crazy because
I just don't even want to be a part.
But that's the thing is when you have that social media, you're like, here I am. This is me. Like, here's everything about me.
Yeah.
But this might be like crazy and too much clan talk or whatever, but like I fucking tripped out because there was this article that was talking about Anonymous, how they were like ousting all these clans people online.
Yeah, I think I read that.
I thought it was pretty fascinating, and I just kind of like posted it like, no, it's okay. I just posted this thing like, hey, this is what, you know, Anonymous is doing, and a lot of people were like stoked. And then one guy was kind of like, this is like only promoting the Klan. And there was like a little bit of argument, and then he kind of like said, well, I'm a high-ranking Klan official. He had this like really strange sense about his dialogue online, and it was crazy because all the people that were progressives were like, you suck a dick, you motherfucker, and all this crazy shit, and they were like, fuck you. The Klansman was like, for the most part, like pretty well composed, and you know how it is. Like if someone says something negative, then it just goes to shit, and everyone's like,
sure.
Everyone's like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, and you don't really accomplish anything. So everyone's like saying like all this shit to this dude, and he's kind of like keeping it pretty relatively chill, and I'm like, wow, this is a trip. And I like kind of look at his profile, and he's a full on like out like in the public Klansman, and I look at his photos, and he's like shooting guns, and there's pictures of him with his outfit on, and like it was like legitimate,
on a public Facebook.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. And so I look at his comments, and I'm like about to chime in, and I'm like, let me just like do some investigation. And I'm like, holy shit. And I remember like kind of pausing, sitting there going like, am I doing this, or should I just fucking walk away? Because this is about as deep as you're gonna get. And I remember like engaging in dialogue with him, and I was trying to not be like, yo, fuck you, like most people were. I was trying to kind of just be like, I think you're wrong, like very, very wrong. And like, and our conversation went like in this really strange direction to where we started like talking about art. And I remember like, I don't know how, I wish I could explain how we got to this point, but basically I said, like we kind of like shared a couple like links to stuff. And I
you
said,
and the Klansman.
Yeah. It was, and this is like in public forum, everyone was like chiming in, and I'm trying to like tunnel vision. Like I'm only going to talk to this guy and not like let all these other people like
side battles.
Yeah. I'm like, I totally do not want this guy in Tennessee to come and kill me when I play Nashville next, because he fucking probably would. So I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And I sent him the link to that Chappelle show where he's like the blind Klansman. Yeah. And all of a sudden he's like, dude, that skit is so funny. He's like, Dave Chappelle is so brilliant. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like having this conversation with the Klansman who's saying Dave Chappelle's brilliant. And then I'm just like, I'm dumbfounded at that point, I'm like, where do we go? Like, and I'm like, cool. Like, I'm going to peace out. Like, I think what you stand for totally sucks, but like, take care, dude. Like, I don't want to like get you to come and kill me, but it was really interesting to kind of like engage in a conversation with the enemy, like full on 100%, 110% the enemy in a civil manner, because normally I'd be like, fuck you. And they'd be like, fuck you. And we wouldn't get anywhere. And not that we really got anywhere, but it was just fascinating to like not have this turn into a shit show, and we actually could like communicate. And I said to him, like, I think you're fucked, man. Like, I think what you stand for is horrible. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I just don't want you to come and shoot me, because you probably would. He seemed like a pretty brutal dude. It was weird, man. Yeah. It was weird. But then I got this crazy idea, and I was like, I'm gonna Facebook message the dude that killed my dad. And then I'm gonna fucking Facebook message the dude that used to kick my ass in middle school and put me in the fucking hospital. And I was like writing all these people and like getting nowhere. Like no one's replying to me. And I'm like, son of a bitch. But I got to dance with the real dude over there,
I don't think the way people communicate is very healthy.
No.
I wish there was. I don't have an answer for it.
Well, the thing is, when people communicate, they do it in this public platform. I think if you were to message, I sent, like, okay, here's the guy that killed my dad. I'm going to just message him directly. It wasn't like in public, like, hey, dude, you fucking killed my dad when I was 12. Suck a dick. It wasn't like that. I was like, hey, you did this thing. Like, I'm the son of this guy that you murdered. Like, I would just love to engage in conversation with you. And like, it was like nothing, And so I'm like, okay. But like, you do
Did you really want to talk to him?
I thought it would be interesting. Yeah. I mean, I did want to talk to him. I still would, but like, and I thought like this would be interesting just to get their perspective. And even the guy that would fuck me up, this like Nazi skinhead that used to beat me up in school, like why was he such a shithead to me? Like, are you still a Nazi skinhead? And was it worth it? You fucked up my childhood, like 2 years, just like tormenting my life. And like, was that worth it? Or, I just want like to know, but most people would just engage in conversation in public view, like, and that's the part that's like kind of harder, or like harsher, I guess.
The whole culture around it is so toxic.
Sure.
Yeah.
I trip out and I'll always post shit and I'll watch it just completely get derailed, usually by someone who agrees with me, but they'll just say something to someone else and call them a shithead, and then I'm like, dude, when you start calling people names, no one's gonna listen. Everyone's pissed at that point.
Yeah.
And then I always try to keep it cool, and I just try to correct people's grammar, and then no one likes that.
God, that's the yeah, I don't know. I have no answer to that. It freaks me out. I'm so scared of internet stuff.
But it's like a poor man's version of like writing a good political slogan on like a public wall. You're like I'm gonna go out and spray paint like this thing.
Mm-hmm. We want to be heard,
or I can just say this online and like engage in conversation safely.
Yeah.
But I would much rather spray paint a message on a wall on a busy street and walk away from it and not have to like have the anxiety and like have to argue with just shitheads for another 2 hours later on the next day.
Yeah, I just think like we evolved to see each other face to face and communicate.
Or de-evolved to be where we are now.
And it's like been such a tiny amount of time where we've even had the technology to communicate without seeing the person face to face.
Sure.
It's like our brains are too dumb to handle it.
I mean, it's like texting. It's like people want to text like massive conversations, and I'm like, oh, that's not, my phone doesn't even really work that well, and I'm like, I can't afford a new iPhone. I'm not having this conversation, or like, it's one thing to like text like, hey, we have rehearsal at this time or something, but like people will like try to
have conversation.
Yeah, sure. Or like my ex-girlfriend broke up with me after 6 years through texting. You're like, that's stupid. Like, can't you just fucking call me for a minute? So it's like, I don't know why people feel that that's like a really acceptable way to communicate. It's one thing if you're like,
it's a cop-out because you're afraid of, in real life,
but also like you miss each other's emotion. You're like, hey, I'm not mad, or I am mad, or I'm being sarcastic, or like an emoji's not going to really grab what I'm trying to deliver.
Are you like generally pessimistic about the future?
No, I mean, I don't know. I kind of have this like weird outlook on it. I think like, it's pretty fucking grim right now, but I keep looking back and thinking like, what about like Nixon and Vietnam? Like those people in that era were probably like, holy shit. So it's not quite as bad as that, I don't think, yet. And it could get bad. But then I also think like, I mean, the future is I don't know. I mean, you just open up this whole like spiritual.
See, my thing is like the whole political environment to me is just a reflection of how toxic our culture has gotten. We've talked about Facebook and fucking people communicating in all these violent ways. I think the political environment is just a reflection of that, and our culture keeps getting like more antisocial and more. I'm really.
But I do think
scared about it.
I do think there's a good chunk of the human population that's getting in tune with something that we aren't capable of even understanding yet, in a positive, optimistic way. I think like there are people that are becoming peaceful, and maybe there's like I'm an atheist by textbook definition, but like I think humans are so naive, I mean, there's something that we don't even understand, like energy, the exchange of energy, collective thought, collective conscience, things like that I feel like could possibly be something that's feasible and backed scientifically. Therefore, I think, I mean, I don't know, man. It's like, I keep thinking like, what if, how bad can it be? Like, we'll nuke the shit out of a huge portion of our population. Humans will possibly die off or be like, a couple tribes left or something. And like, should I be pessimistic? No, that's probably a good thing for this planet. Then you think about like, then there will be like shitty people abusing dogs, they'll be dead, I don't know. There is like, it's like, I don't know. It's like I'm into like weird shit. Then you think like, oh, there's time travel and parallel dimensions, and then you're like, okay, now I've gone too far. But it's like, you want to make America great again. Well, like I want to fucking talk about time travel or these other planets that they just discovered that are like Earth. I don't know if you heard that news.
Yeah.
I'm like, these are pretty fucking fascinating. Or like, then I start thinking like, wow, man, there's like SpaceX. This really nice guy hit me up about. He worked at SpaceX. He's like, you want a tour of it? And
oh, really?
And I went there and my mind was blown. And he's like, you know, in our lifetimes, we will go to outer space. I'm like, yes, like I'm gonna, you know, like I'm gonna be able to go to outer space. And so then I start thinking like, you're fucking gonna complain about coal mining and like the shit that's ruining your planet you're on. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go to outer space because you're gonna fucking jack this place up. Or
you
like,
really think that's a possibility? Like, I mean, living out there.
I don't know about living, but he said like in our lifetime we'll be able to go to outer space. So I'm hoping so I am going to be, you know, optimistic. Like someone told me I'm going to outer space. You know?
Yeah. Does it feel? But this will jump back a little bit. Well, what's it like playing in a band, getting, you know, like older versus you started so incredibly young, and punk rock is so incredibly young.
I feel like I was so naive, and I still know I'm naive because I think like after every year passes, I'm like, God, I can't believe I did that, or like I can't believe we did that. I'm glad I learned not to do that anymore.
Sure.
You know, and
like do you think about?
I think about things that I didn't think about before, like, and my mom kind of like pushes it on me. She's like, "You're not a spring chicken anymore," you know, like watch out when you jump off the stage, and I'm like, "Fuck you," like. Because I don't think about like, well, and I do think about, I can't jump off stage. I'm going to break my arm and then I'm going to be fucked. You know, I don't have insurance to cover it. Yeah. But I mean, I also think like, I don't really want to like jump off the stage, or I don't, you know, I don't know, like what's the point of that? That's not really like going to serve a purpose. I just think differently. You know, I think constant evolution and progression is what is needed. And I'm grateful that I at least think that I'm progressing.
Yeah.
You know, that's an argument. That's debatable, I guess. But a lot of people kind of like stick to the regiment that they are comfortable with forever, and that's cool for them. But like for me, it'd be a bummer.
Yeah, I think that because I mean, like I said, like I work kind of like a corporate-y job, and I look at the people and I cannot. I mean, they're fine, decent people, but I just cannot understand. You know, what they're talking about. I can't. It's like, what are you talking about? And then I think about the shit I'm doing. I fucking put a trip to Chicago on my credit card or whatever, and I'm like, well.
But that's cool. That's life. That's like I did something rad. I went to Chicago and like met up with cool people, and like that's a lot of people don't have the guts to do that.
Or it's like it's maybe a financial risk or something, but then it's like, well, what about the risk of wasting your life and not trying to do anything outside of stare at a fucking computer screen all day?
I mean, I understand like financial stability. Yeah. I mean, I understand what.
Yeah, there's a balance.
Yeah, but then I don't know have it. You know, I think when you don't have something, maybe you're able to like not be so worried about it
because you can't lose it.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I feel like, you know, this is an interesting like sort of like class issue, because I feel like people that are like born into money and like typically aren't as generous. You know, they kind of, you know, like you think about like the Trump family, like how much more money do you need your fucking family to make? You know, like that's an interesting point. But then, and I'm not a fan of like pushing for someone or something, some corporate entity, but like I was kind of intrigued by Mark Zuckerberg saying like, I'm never going to take any more money. Like I have enough. You know, like from Facebook, he was, you know, I didn't hear that. Yeah, he came out with some statement saying like, from here on out, like I'm good. Like I'm set for, you know, for life. Like the rest of money will be, you know, funneled into starting other things or like helping science or this or that. And I was like, that's pretty cool perspective, you know.
He only needs $100 billion though.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but like he could have been like a lot of these other fuckers that are like, I'm gonna just keep screwing.
I don't trust him. I don't know. I feel like that's a PR. Okay. He got caught like he was trying to like buy an island in Hawaii.
Fuck that.
You remember that? Like, I feel like that was like
bad example. But there are people that do that, you know. And I always trip out on like real philanthropists that will like fund something that is really good for the world, be it like charity or funding an arts program or something, or people that like donate to NPR. Like I'm always like, who are these people that just donated $5,000? Like that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Fuck, we got sidetracked for a second.
Okay, but fuck Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, publicly, I would like to say that.
But you have so many things going on. Like, how do you plan? I'm interested in how people kind of make sense of their creative life? Do you have some kind of plan for like this year I'm going to do this, next year I'm going to do that?
I roll with whatever the
You're just like do as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's kind of how I work. It's a bit of a drag sometimes, but then I just think like when I'm sitting at home and I'm like, oh my God, like there's always something that I could be doing. Most of the time, it doesn't involve me making any money, but there's always something I could be doing. So I will do it, you know? Like, I'm pretty scared right now financially about my financial stability. But, like, you know, today and for most days, I get up and I'm like, I need to go to the studio and work on this. I'm working on this record with my friend Luke Henshaw. And, you know, I won't ever make money from what I'm doing with him, but I think, like, I need to do this. And, like, this is rad. And maybe it will evolve into something else or lead to something that might be cooler. But like for now, it's just keep doing it. Like little things happen. Like, you know, I think like there was this Headwind City show I was playing, and these two guys came up and they were talking to me, and I forgot how the conversation started, but it turns out that they were working on this cartoon called Uncle Grandpa. It's like on Cartoon Network, and they were like, "You want to be a voice on it?" And I was like, "Dude, that is my like one of my lifelong goals. Like, I would love to." And then a few months later, I go to Cartoon Network, and I'm this like snack elf, and I'm giving out free snacks.
Has it come out yet?
No, but it was so awesome. It was so good, so much fun. I sound like Trump right there, huh? It was. Okay, it was badass. No, it was awesome, and I got paid really well for like a few hours of work, and it was rad. I was a freaking snack elf that gave out like these sample snacks, and they're all vegan snacks, and it was great, you know. And it's such a weird ass cartoon, and I was psyched to be part of it. It was like a really cool creative thing to be part of, and it was lucrative financially. So like
you had no plan, yeah.
I wasn't planning it. Yeah. It just happened because I played music, and these guys were like really, really rad, and they're in an awesome band, and they, you know, they're like, we really like, you know, what you've done, and now it's like, well, now I get to go see their band. I mean, like, dude, you guys are ripping, you know, and so it's cool. It's like a mutual thing, and I'm a bit more jealous of them than I think they might be of me, because I'm like, I want to just do cartoons all day, man. Like, that's cooler than what I do, and you guys are getting paid a lot.
Yeah, I notice a lot of people that do a lot of stuff, it just seems like they just keep saying yes. That they just say yes to everything that comes across there.
Well, I do say yes to a lot of stuff, and there's sometimes I'm like, God, why did I say yes to that? Because that was stupid. You know, I did some stuff with like the Bloody Beetroots and these like electronic kind of producer guys. It was such bullshit. And then but then I got to write a book about it. The second book I wrote is so funny to me, I think, because I'm just talking all this shit about myself for dealing with this kind of music. And it was, I
haven't heard that.
How to Lose Friends and Irritate People is the name of the book. And it was just about like these DJ guys that I worked with, them and the Designer Drugs. And the music was really shitty, you know, and like, it was so funny because I remember like getting I remember getting the final mixes to these songs that I did with these people, thinking like, this is the okay rough mix, but like I'm ready for the, you know, final. And they're like, no, this is it. I'm like, what? Oh. This is such bullshit musically. I'm like, it could be so much cooler. And then like, oh well, that happened, and oh well, and let me just write a book about it, and then maybe I'll make like a, you know, $1,000 from book sales, and that'll be cool, I guess. So,
no, I think that's important. I've spent a lot of time being afraid of saying yes because you're like a perfectionist or something. Yeah. You know? Like, I only want to do like
the best,
coolest shit. But in a way, I think that's a lie you tell yourself, and it's really just like fear or laziness. And
because I agree to do stuff, and I'm like, this sucks. Why did I do this? But then I also look back and I'm like, God, we just sucked so bad, and I thought we were like on it. You know, I mean, people will like say stuff about like bands that I've been in, like how it was really important to them and how good it was, and I really appreciate that, and I'm flattered by it, and I am honored, but I really do in my heart think like, God, it was just so bad and not thought out and not as good as it could have been. But then I think like maybe at that time, at that moment, I thought we were doing the best we could.
And I think people always think that no matter what.
I hope so. I mean, I'm
because
glad
you're
I
always
do.
thinking of the next thing,
Sure.
and you're like, the next thing is going to be so much better.
Because you learn from it.
Yeah.
But some people don't learn from it. They're like, I'm fucking badass. I'm going to sit here and suck my dick.
Well, that's what's fucked up too. It's like on one hand, you don't want to just think, like you said, you don't want to just be like, oh, I'm the fucking best. I don't need to improve.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you don't want to be like constantly yearning and like never satisfied, because then you're like, that's not a pleasant way to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's this thing that this guy Weasel Walter said in this film, this documentary that's coming out called Parallel Planes, and he's like being interviewed, and he said I don't want to think music is something that, you know, that we do for fun. It's like, I think it's something, I like to think that it's something we have to do, like absolutely just have to do. I forgot how he worded it. The way he words it is so badass. He's a really funny, and he's very well spoken, and the way he says it, like, it's just, you feel like, fuck, you're right, because it's not like
it's not a choice.
It's not, but it's also not like necessarily fun. But it's more like, I have to do this, in like subconsciously. Like, why did I
understand what
like,
you're
why
saying.
do I go in a van for 5 weeks with
Yeah.
with, you know, 4 other people, and we like smell, and we barely make any money, and we fucking get in fights with each other, and, you know, why do we do that? You're like, oh, it's like, I have to do that.
Yeah, that's a funny question. All the creative people I know do very self-destructive stuff sometimes just to do it.
But I don't know if it's like self-destructive. I think it's just,
I mean, not necessarily cutting themselves open,
Yeah,
but spending money you don't have,
Sure.
or whatever it
Yeah.
you know, something that
yeah. What's the word? Like, not self-destructive, but just not very, you know, responsible.
Wise.
I'm
Yeah,
irresponsible,
yeah.
really. I think that like most artists should be irresponsible.
And what's fucked up though is the people, or the reason you like art is because you like to participate in that person. It's a fun feeling to
Yeah.
participate in somebody being irresponsible. It's like when you're a kid and you're like, let's stay up all night. And there's that like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know it's a bad idea, but it's still exciting. And when
Sure.
you listen to hardcore music, it kind of triggers that same kind of thing. Like, whoa, this is, I don't know. It's just so absurd.
Absurd is good, but then also that absurdity kind of helps you maybe like digest the absurdity of real life.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, this world is fucked, but there's this thing, and that makes me feel like I can kind of like handle it for a little while.
Or it's like inside, I feel like things are so fucked up and not right, and yet I go to my job and everybody is wearing a tie and everybody has a blank face. Nobody looks
Yeah.
worried, and yet inside I feel fucking panicked.
Yeah.
And then you listen to hardcore music or whatever.
That's your outlet or
and you're like,
something.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's another way to see the world. That's
Sure.
another way to react. Maybe I am not so crazy.
I mean, this might be really rude of me to say, but like, it's like people that go to Burning Man. I don't really know. I've never been to Burning Man, but like, it's like people go to Burning Man and they're like, you know, I'm going to do a bunch of drugs and fuck and like all this stuff for this one weekend. And, you know, and then you go back to being like shitty for like 8 more months or like years.
Yeah.
And you think like, not that you should go fuck and do a lot of drugs, but like, just chill out and like enjoy every day.
Yeah, that's the American way, though. That's
Yeah,
what
oh, yeah.
America promotes more than anything. Sell your, like, mortgage your present for a few moments in the future where you can go to Las Vegas for a weekend,
Yeah.
or go to the Bahamas, or go, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever. That's a real American value.
Well, it's weird because I always trip out on people saying like, about talking about like traveling, like, oh, you've been to here and you've been there, like, and then like, you know, I'll talk to people that like they went, you know, trying to think of like a place, like I don't know, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've been all over Sweden, you know, but like on tour. So what did I saw? Like, I mean, I've seen like rad shit, but I've mainly just seen like a bunch of venues, you know.
Yeah.
But I've been able to find a way to do it and not have to like work like forever and it suck and then blow all my money in like 1
Sure.
week to go to Stockholm. It's like I've
Yeah.
been to Stockholm a bunch of times on tour.
Yeah.
It'd probably be radder if I was like on vacation, like with my partner. Or
I
my
don't know. Because then you're bored. I mean, have you ever gone on a real vacation where you put your feet up and have an umbrella in your drink?
I've
and just
gone
do
on
nothing?
like 2 of them in my life, and usually it's with my mom. My mom and I went to China, and it was pretty rad. I was never bored, and my mom's really inspiring. And she, you know, we did all this crazy shit, and she's down to like do stuff that I think most tourists don't
Explore.
do. Yeah, like we were like on this city bus for hours, and like there was like no space, and one of us had to stand. And
Did you go on a tour? I went to China too, and it was like a tour.
No, we didn't really do that, I don't think. But we went to like I don't know what they're called, the Red Square, and like we went to the Great Wall of China and things like that. And it was, but we went on our own.
Okay.
Like it wasn't with like a. That was the thing. Is like
Yeah, that's cool.
But half the time I'm like, holy shit, is this right, Mom? Like we've been on this fucking city bus with like people like fighting and chickens and like children and like people passed out and like like just all, but like we got to see weird. It was just weird. But I'm really appreciative that I get to do that with my mom. But most people wouldn't ever have that scenario happen.
Yeah.
But even like going and doing that in context to touring is cool. I think I always tell my mom like, you should go on tour with me. You'd probably have a fucking great time. It's like I have 1 hour in this city like to do something. Let's make it worth that time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks so much for talking to me,
course.
coming over here.
Yeah,
I mean, talking about saying yes, like I'm so appreciative because you don't know who I am. This could be a fucking nightmare that you would have signed up for. So.
I know, but if I don't sign up for it, you miss out on the good shit.
Thanks
it can't
so
be
much.
that bad, It really can't.
I'm close, right? What's the best way for people to follow your music now? I just followed you on Instagram or whatever. I saw the photo of your show. I'm like, fuck, that was 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Is that a good place? Like,
Sure.
Where should somebody go to follow
all
your
social
shit?
media links are tied into each other to some extent, But I mean, people can reach me anywhere. Like you can go to the 300G website and there's an email address that I answer every email that's a real email, or Facebook. You can hit me up there. It's fine. Thanks, Mark Zuckerberg.
And what, man, there's a ton of music. I loved what we were talking about. We didn't catch up on music. What are you like putting out soon? You have so many different
not really
projects.
not that much.
It's absurd.
The only real functioning band I have is Retox, and we're writing a new record. We just got an awesome new drummer, and we're starting to work on a new album. And then I have this project Planet B, which is primarily studio stuff. We've played 2 live shows at the public library, which is kind of funny, and that's just like a studio thing that I'm working on. And
do you have a studio here, a home studio?
No, I don't.
You go to a place?
Yeah, my friend Luke has a studio that we do all of our stuff at. And then or Retox has a rehearsal studio in LA, so I go up to that. But then, and the other thing is, Dead Cross is this other band that I have that we're mixing our record. It should be done in about a week, I hope. Ipicac's putting it out.
Awesome. Well, thanks again.
Yeah, hell yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Later.